Hi there. Before you jump into this episode, we want to make sure our listeners know about the How Do You Drew Patreon page, where we release exclusive content for our members.
We've shared unedited video versions of podcast episodes, rare Drew Barrymore photos from our digital archives, movie commentaries, and so much more.
We're currently working through a deep dive of each chapter of Little Girl Lost, which, if you don't know, is Drew's out-of-print autobiography released when she was only a teenager. And it's been really good stuff, you guys.
There's already plenty of content to dig into and lots more to come. So join now for as little as $1 a month and support us at How Do You Drew.
Yeah, go to patreon.com/howdoyoudrew to join today. Thank you.
Enjoy the episode.
Hello. Oh boy, listen to that voice. Hello. And welcome to How Do You Drew? Yes, I sound like crap again.
This is a Drew Barrymore podcast brought to you by thedrewseum.com.
And sponsored by our friends at Positive Medium.
I'm Anne with the smooth, clear voice.
And I'm Ashley, the croaky frog.
It's just so weird. I'm the smoker. Like,
ever since our trip to New York, I have not
really
fully recovered. Yes. And I got hit like really hard this week with the cold. And yeah, I know. I just can't win.
Fun.
Yeah. That's okay.
Speaking of our trip to New York, like, hey, that was really exciting. If you guys haven't listened to episode 99, do it.
Woo!
All right. So we're here for episode 101 to do a magazine from 2001.
Had to. Yeah, I couldn't. I was like, this is too perfect. Like, we have to line it up.
Yeah. All right. So before we get into that, let's talk about what we got at the top. There's kind of a lot of random stuff at the top of the show today.
Yeah, let's just do some catching up on stuff. So I feel like we got to talk about these tidbits galore that came out of the Ione Skye interview on the Drew Barrymore show. Ione has known Drew for a really long time. They, of course, starred together in Gun Crazy and Fever Pitch. They didn't really talk about either of those things, which I thought was so interesting.
Funny. Yeah.
But I couldn't help but notice Drew saying so casually to Ione, when we were living at the Zappa house, and she's going to say it again in a second about something else.
Yeah.
I don't really know what the exaggeration level is here, the timeline, but she's talking about Frank Zappa, musician, and all his kids. Drew said that she somehow got brought into the house through Amit Zappa, who we have a picture of Drew with in 1987, and that she didn't leave for a few years.
I think it's a complete huge exaggeration. I was also obviously very like, what's the timeline? So what was the music video? What was the timeline of the music video that she was in with
the Zappas?
Unit? Yeah.
I think it's from 86.
That's okay. So that's like earlier than I imagined. I don't know. But maybe because she would go over there periodically between like 86 and this picture here is from what, like 87 or
87. Yeah.
Okay. I don't know. So, I mean, I think it's a total exaggeration, but did she say in that one or the other one, like there was like formative years that she spent there?
Maybe both, because the other one you're talking about, when she's hugging Ione, I hear her saying Moon was just here. So she was talking about Moon Zappa, one of the Zappa kids. And then Moon was on just yesterday's show. And I quickly watched it to prepare for this. And Drew said there that she lived at their house for a long time. And I'm like, does she mean she would stay there for a few weeks at a time? Like, what are we talking about here? I'm so confused.
I wish that there was something in Little Girl Lost we could be like, oh, she's talking about staying with the Zappas here. But
there's nothing to make you think she was staying with anyone at that point. Maybe. So we have the last two big chapters.
Maybe there's something there.
Yeah, we'll have to look at it. I just thought the timing of this was interesting because we're looking back on this time in her life so intently over on our Patreon. If you're not following, that's where we're doing a Little Girl Lost coverage.
Patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
But yeah, one thing I just want to mention that Moon said that I really liked when Drew was saying that there was so much like freedom and autonomy at the Zappa house. Moon was
Yes.
like, that's a nice reframing. I would say
Right.
neglect.
Right. I totally
like,
took note of that. I also watched it because you were like, it's good. Like, I got it. And yeah, I totally caught that Drew was sort of romanticizing.
Yep. Yeah.
Which naturally, that's
very
her.
typical. And then I also like the like very, you had to really be watching to catch it. But the way Moon said, I met your mother. Like she's like, I know you were living in craziness too.
Yeah.
Ooh,
yeah, like
interesting
I know.
stuff.
Yeah, like a very knowing little phrase there. But yes, both the Ione interview and the Moon interview were so cool. So you have more from the Ione interview here, right?
Yeah, I thought it was great that they talked about, I think Ione later said on her podcast, the very first time they ever met was at Helena's nightclub. I've been pronouncing that Helena's, I think, but just in case, it's Helena's.
I feel like you've been saying
think
Helena's.
I said it right? Oh, okay, good.
Maybe. I don't know.
So again, over on our Patreon, while we're reading Little Girl Lost, she talks a lot about this club, unnamed, by a friend of her mom's owned it. And there were enough hints. I figured out it was Helena's. And this was just a nice little validation. Like, yep, see, I knew it.
Yep, that we had like just put those pieces together within the last year. So
yeah,
that's cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
And then we always love hearing about this. She talked briefly about when she was living at Tamara Davis's house in like 1991. And Tamara, of course, was married to Mike D from the Beastie Boys. And Ione was dating Adam Horowitz. Is that how you say his last name?
I think so.
Also from the Beastie Boys at the same time. And Drew said the Beastie Boys were so cool. I always felt like such a goofy loser around them. And she said she would like watch Adam and Ione, and just even though she was like kind of part of the group, she kind of looked at them as like they were so cool. Like, wow.
And I don't think I realized before that those overlapped, those timelines.
Me neither. So that was really neat to learn. And that kind of makes sense why Ione was in Gun Crazy. You know, they were all part of the same scene.
That's true. Oh my God.
And I saw Tamara went to her book signing or like book event, Ione's. And I quickly listened to Ione's podcast, and she said like that she almost like felt like maybe there was some weirdness because I think in the book it gets into this, but I think she cheated on Adam is what I was like reading between the lines.
Okay.
And so she didn't know like how Tamara felt about her. So it was like really special that Tamara showed up, and like, yeah, it was really interesting. I'm like, this is like getting so into the weeds, you know, but I was like, oh, like putting more together.
I think did Ione maybe marry him?
Yes, I believe so.
Okay. Anyway, so I want to read her book.
Yeah, I know she said there's stuff about Drew in the book, and I have it on my wait list from the library. I think I have like 2 weeks to go. So I will follow up when I finish reading it.
So cool. I can't wait to hear, because you will get to it way before I ever do.
I'm a reader.
Voracious reader, as Drew is. All right, so let's talk about what Drew has proclaimed her love for recently.
I love love.
All right, this is a really nice little grab bag of randomness. Here we go. Drew loves snail mail, of course.
Aww,
someone sent me a letter. She loves Bloody Marys.
Okay.
A Maldon, which is a brand of sea salt flakes. I had to look that one up.
They're like fancy ones.
Fancy, yeah. She loves cabbage.
Okay.
Emulsification.
I loved when she said that on the show because she got really excited when she said, I love emulsification. Anyway, okay.
She loves a little chili flake. Seals, like the animal. Okay. Toronto, which she spent time there filming Fever Pitch. Ah, interesting.
Yeah.
We might be talking about that soon. She loves fiber. And then she said, I am such an old single lady that I'm excited about fiber.
Me too. You know what? Me too.
I take fiber gummies every day. And then finally, Drew loves the term glow up.
Because she's always glowing.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so let's jump over to another little positive place. Let's go to our kind comments corner.
So sweet.
That's cute. A little positive place. I like that. This is a really cute comment from Instagram. I think this might have been on the video with Paulina Poroskova on the show, but
okay.
Doesn't really matter. Let's just read it. This is from Dory JH.
Okay. And she said, "What a sweet story. Everyone has grown up with Drew since she was a baby. Icon. She's legitimately Hollywood royalty, if there was such a thing, considering the Barrymore lineage of actors she comes from. She broke the mold."
Cool.
Aww.
Yeah,
that's cool. It feels like it's got layers to it.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know, like it kind of, it has some knowledge in it. It's not just like Drew's sweet and light. Like there's something like breaking the mold. That's a lot. If Drew saw that, she'd be like, oh, that's
cool. Oh, cool.
Speaking of growing up with Drew, let's go back in time a little bit.
All right. This week in Drew history, March 29th, 1989. This was the second time Drew attended the Oscars. Mm-hmm. And this was with Corey Feldman as her date, as about as 1989 as you can get.
So great.
And Drew wore this really cute Betsy Johnson off the rack dress that we're going to listen to a quick clip of her talking about. Before we do that, we have these really weird pictures of her probably like getting ready to go out for the night. Yeah. She's like in her room smoking and looking like way older than a barely 14-year-old.
Oh, I would guess that she was like at least 20 if it was just like, I didn't, not knowing Drew, but just like this person, this individual.
Yeah. And I'm like, did Jade take these? Did Corey take these? Like, she's like posing.
I don't know why I envision Corey took them.
See, I thought maybe Jade did because I think Jade shared them with TV specials.
You know what? That's probably right. But Drew smoking, like this is the thing to share.
Yep. So we might show a couple of those. They feel like weirdly personal.
They do. They do. They feel like pictures that somebody would take before prom.
Yeah. But like, you know, way like, more like salacious looking than that.
Right. But like that home, that kind of thing, like about to go out with your boyfriend, you know, whatever.
I also like that she has like a glamorous headshot of herself framed in her room on the wall.
I know. And Marilyn Monroe in another picture. Okay. So should I play the...
Yeah. We have a little bit of audio from the red carpet when they were at the Oscars.
You've come out so publicly with what you've been going through, and you've got a lot of support from fans and the public.
Yeah, I'm very happy about that. It makes me feel very good, and like I don't have to keep any more secrets, and I don't have to be undercover about what I've done, and it feels very relieving that people have responded as well as they did, and it supports me a lot, and it keeps me on a good ground.
Okay, and then when Corey Feldman was on the Drew Barrymore show, they also briefly talked about it, right?
Yes, so sweet.
Do you remember going to like the Academy Awards together? I remember you were going, and so I was lucky enough to be your date. And I just threw on like a cotton Betsy Johnson dress off the rack. And I remember looking around and thinking, oh, I'm very underdressed. I'm wearing a cotton Betsy Johnson dress. Whoops.
Whoopsies. Well, you know what? I was wearing my safety pin jacket.
I remember. Right? And a red shirt and your Ray-Bans. Yes. And like, I just thought we were having so much fun.
That picture is
everywhere.
Legendary.
It's legendary.
Yes.
I do love the pictures of them because Drew looks so cute in this Betsy Johnson dress.
I know.
Like, they didn't need more than that. Like just the simple black dress and black shoes and like the flowers. It's great. Like she looks beautiful.
She does
of course,
really beautiful.
Corey Feldman is in kind of a Michael Jackson inspired outfit, but very 80s. And Drew, like the clip of her talking about it because I guess Little Girl Lost or the story had broke, right? So she was talking about like that she was happy that she could kind of get it out there. So I think she was in a good place maybe at this time.
I think so too. Well, we'll see when we get into the last chapters of Little Girl.
Good point, which is like right after this, I guess, right? But the pictures of her are very sweet. So make sure you check the episode page to see them. If you're not familiar, you might already be. Okay, so there's some fun stuff here. So let's talk about what's new with Drew.
Do you want to hit the headlines?
She got a new tattoo. Breaking news. Dun, 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 dun. Number 13. Wow.
Yeah, that's cool. She said 13 before and was wrong, right?
Yeah.
But I think we made a joke like she's already planning on the next one, or we said something. So if you don't know already, Drew has gotten a tattoo of the word time on kind of the outer part of her wrist. On which arm is it?
Her left one.
Okay. So we had seen her in fall of 2023. The word time was like written on her arm. You could see it on the show. And you had pointed that out. We always love when she writes on her arm. This is a thing that she's like done forever.
You actually noticed
I
it
noticed
first.
It?
Yeah.
Oh,
because it was at the Formula One in Austin.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And then when she came back to the show, it was still there. So then we like caught it again. So she was workshopping it as she does a couple times with her tattoos.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So
and
cool.
back then, she had said that she'd recently gone through something that was the most difficult thing since her divorce. We were pretty sure that it was about the whole strike drama that happened.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to get back into that.
Mm-hmm.
And that she had realized that time is what helps. And then this time around, she also mentioned that, but she also said that I realize now how important time is, how meaningful, how not to take it for granted. Time is our most precious commodity.
I feel like she says something like that a lot, or that sentiment has come out a lot in the last couple of years. Like, so I love that. I love that she finally like made it real.
Yeah.
And you pulled a clip of her talking about the new ink a little bit. So let's listen to this.
I got this tattoo that says time. It was because I was explaining to my daughter Frankie a couple years ago that I really think the great healer can be time. Time heals. If you have the trust in time, it doesn't feel the same way over time. And that can be a really good thing, especially when you just think it's never not going to feel this certain way. Time will shift it. Another reason is I believe in timing. Timing is everything. And also, I've come to believe that time is the most precious commodity I have. I'm getting to a time in my life and an age and a place where things look different. I don't have all the time in the world, and I want a way to carry this with me and have a beautiful reminder of how much I now respect and appreciate time, and that it does heal, and it is the best thing in the world.
Oh,
time.
And then the video from her Instagram, it's like she's like stroking the tattoo a little bit. So clearly she is loving this sentiment. It's so cool.
Yeah. We should probably mention that she got it on the show with Savannah Guthrie, which they've gotten tattoos together before. And they brought back the same tattoo artist, John Boy. And he had done their last ones together, which were Drew Sardines. And then this one, it looks like she just wrote it down and he like used her handwriting. I didn't even really recognize it was her handwriting at first. I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, I think we both had that. Like, we're like, what is this? Because the M doesn't look like...
The M is weird. Okay, that's what threw me too.
I sort of was thinking, though, like, she probably just wrote those letters very intentionally a bunch of times, and then they picked them.
Put it together.
So,
good call.
You know, and it's because it's not like... It's vertical. It's not, like, horizontal like the word usually would lay.
That's
I feel
true.
like that is also a little bit like... Huh. But yes, I love she's got more than one tattoo of her own handwriting. We're ready to get one of your handwriting too.
Hello.
Drew.
I know. That's like when they were showing her writing the letters, I was like, oh my God, that's what we need.
Yep. I don't know if we've talked about this on the pod before. I'm sure we have.
Just in case we haven't, Anne and I want to get matching tattoos that say breathe for various personal reasons for each of us. But we also, you know, it has that Drew connection. So we want it to be in her handwriting to make it extra special. And of course, when we saw her, we didn't think about asking for that. So one day.
Our brains were not right there in that moment.
No, we had other things going on.
Okay, so I like how you noted here about the mysterious bird tattoo.
Yeah, I feel like since we're in tattoo talk, in our tattoo
episode, which is like episode 12,
Mm-hmm.
we talk about how her bird tattoo is the most random. We don't know anything about it, no story, no anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, she did recently on Hollywood Squares say that she had gotten a stick and poke tattoo in a hotel bathroom with Justin Long and Billy Joe Armstrong.
Mm-hmm.
And we feel pretty confident based on the timing.
Yep.
Being with Justin, that it's the bird tattoo.
Yep. And then I was talking about how like stick and poke tattoos can like, they're literally done by hand. So it's not like you can kind of tell.
Yeah, because it's kind of got that like raggedy border to it, right?
Right. It's not like perfect lines usually.
Yeah.
So cool. We're kind of, again, filling in the pieces and,
always,
you know, finding the little nuggets. The little nuggets.
We love little nuggets.
Yes, we do. Okay, so then there was something else announced. I didn't even know about this.
Oh, yeah. So she's going to be part of this event called Night of Too Many Stars. It's a live comedy event to support autism programs nationwide. And it was created by Robert Smigel, who is Triumph, the Insult Comic Dog. And of course,
was in The Wedding Singer.
The Wedding Singer. Relax, go to it. It's going to be on March 31st in New York City. Tickets are available to the public. So we'll share the link to that on the episode page. And it's being hosted by Jon Stewart. Adam Sandler will also be there, along with tons of other people.
Cool.
And according to Triumph's Instagram, Drew will be interviewing one lucky audience member. So interesting.
She loves interacting with an audience.
Yeah.
If we know anything from her show.
I know, right?
Cool. So that's neat. That's a neat charity type event.
Yeah. So next time we record, we'll probably be reporting on that.
Oh, cool.
Hey Drewbies. We are here to tell you about our website hosts, Positive Medium, and they sponsor the podcast. We've been clients of theirs for over 10 years, and we use them for all our website needs on thedrewsium.com.
Their services include customized web design, professional coding, search engine optimization and marketing, plus hosting, which has been huge for us for many years.
Plus, their incredible customer service has been one of our favorite features. They've literally saved our site quite a few times, and they always help with minor troubleshooting in a matter of minutes. So whether that's coding issues or back-end questions, etc., we reach out, we get help immediately, which is just invaluable.
Lucky you. To our listeners, Positive Medium is offering 25% off any managed WordPress hosting plan using our promo code DREW. That's DREW. Visit our friends over at positivemedium.com. Thank you.
Are we ready to get into the weekly topic for this week?
Let's do it. Let's continue our Movieline magazine series. This is, we're almost there. This is the 5th one. Yeah. 5 out of 6. Okay. And this is from October 2001.
The month I met her.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. This is like a big time for you.
Yeah. This is a big time for Drew too. We'll get into that.
It's an interesting time. I really liked reading this again for the first time in forever. And she's in a weird headspace.
They do get into some topics that explain why also, but it's like she's in like a very prolific part of her life, but also like just shit is happening.
And she's like right in between getting married to Tom Green and getting divorced from Tom Green. Like it's right in the middle of that. And you can kind of feel it. Like sometimes she's gushing about him and sometimes she seems annoyed about him.
Like there's they're having arguments or there are things that they're working through that are emotional. So the article was written by Michael Fleming, who also did the last Movieline article in 1998. And was also in Q&A format like this one will be. I don't think we realized ahead of doing this that it was the same author.
No, I sure didn't. And
So
I'm
that's
wondering
cool.
if he does the 2003 one. We'll discover that when we get there.
Yes, we will focus on that when we're there. And then you noted the photographer was Mark Abrams or Abrahams, not sure how it's pronounced.
I think it's Abrahams.
Okay, and then this is like a frequent collaborator of Drew's, but lesser known, though they've done at least 10 shoots together between 2000 and 2004. Wow.
He's like a weird under the radar one no one ever talks about or seems to think about. But he did some amazing ones. Like I love the both. He did both the ones from Premiere in 2000, the one with the angels and the one of just Drew.
Those are beautiful.
Oh my God, love those.
Yeah.
There's a whole long list of ones that he did, but yes, strange that they were in such a like short
succession
frame of time. Yeah.
Yeah. It's almost like it was her chosen person for a minute.
It sort of seems that way. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the photographer. The hair is done by Danilo. How is that pronounced?
I think it's Danilo.
Okay.
And I know him because he did Gwen Stefani's hair for decades.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
And then makeup was done by Jillian Fink Dempsey, because at this time was she like always doing it?
I mean, it's crazy how much she was working with Drew in this time.
Yep.
Not just this time, for a really long time.
Yeah. Is it like sort of like what Deb is now to Drew?
Yeah,
probably.
I think so. Definitely. Yeah.
So, and then the styling was done by Nina and Claire, and you have some really fun tidbits.
Yeah. Well, at first I could just like find, okay, well, they currently work a lot with Kirsten Dunst, Jennifer Aniston, your buddy Jake Gyllenhaal, and then Patrick Dempsey a lot. And they're obviously also good friends with Jillian. So I was like, okay, that's fun. Then I found out that they did Rolling Stone from 2000. Amazing.
No idea.
So they sourced all those vintage lingerie pieces we were just talking about in the last episode.
How much we loved them and how cool they were.
And they definitely did more than this too, but I haven't quite gotten there yet. Like those kind of 2000s years are a little light in our database, like as far as credits for stylists and hair and stuff like that. We're still filling those in. Yeah. So I'm sure we're going to learn more. But I reached out, even though they're like big time stylists, I was like, well, just see if they have if they could answer some questions.
Yeah.
And Nina responded and she was super sweet. And this is what she had to say. She said that we worked with Drew from late 1999 to 2004.
Cool.
We always supported small brands. One of our dearest friends to this day, John Shaya, I hope I was saying that right, made us this t-shirt from his company Jet. And she's talking about the striped shirt that Drew wears in this magazine. We're going to talk about it because Drew wore it a lot.
Yeah.
And she said it was inspired by an old image of Marlon Brando. The necklace, which is the Apple necklace that we've talked about here on the pod that Drew also wears frequently. The necklace was made by Juliana Ashaya, his sister, who had a small jewelry line at the time at Fred Siegel Melrose. All the cool kids. And then she said we worked with vintage, for example, the Rolling Stone shoot. And this is when I went like, holy shit. And costume houses, which were the best finds. We only worked with fashion brands that did not use fur. That was definitely like a thing for Drew. Our collaboration was creative and super fun. And then she followed up about those two items, the shirt and the Apple necklace, to say the pieces were made for Drew and gifted to her at the end of the shoot.
Love it.
So now we know why she had them after this was done, which was like the main question I had.
It was always this little curious thing. Yeah. Like it's so neat to know this now. So I'm so glad that you reached out.
It was really cool. I mean, I love being able to be like, we've got exclusive info to put in here. So thank you to Nina and Claire for taking the time to answer our questions.
Yes. So neat.
And now we're going to be like watching for them in all the credits. Like I'm going to be like, did they do this one? So like, interestingly enough, Danilo and Jillian also did Marie Claire magazine that also came out in October 2001.
Okay.
And that one gives a special thanks to Nina and Claire. They weren't the stylists, but it says special thanks to them. So I think like also it's possible that this whole team might have done Esquire from the same month. But the pages that I have from the magazine, the credits aren't there. So they must have been like in the contents pages or something. And I don't have them.
Of course I do. But it wasn't something that we were going to have my dad dig out at this point, I guess. But, maybe we'll
get there.
Put more of these pieces together and do more episodes where we talk about like frequent collaborators and stuff. Like we're going to be talking about a lot of the same stuff. We're always digging for more Drew tidbits. Let's just gush about the photos for a minute because they are really beautiful. Pretty much all of them are like relatively close up of Drew, but you can see parts of like really fun outfits, including that striped shirt.
It is interesting. They're all kind of shoulders up, and it seems very intentional, and I wonder why.
I mean, we will talk about this, but we have no outtakes.
Nothing. There's literally the 6 that were printed in the magazine, and that is all we've ever seen.
So I just realized we have no idea what the rest of her outfit looks like.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is kind of funny.
But there's fun accessories. They definitely made her be wearing a lot of stuff to show in these pictures.
Yeah, because there's a bracelet in one of them that's sort of like a punk.
Yeah, it's kind of like the one she wears in People magazine in 1984. It's studded.
Yeah.
That's kind of fun.
True. Yeah, and then a huge flower in one, and on the cover and one of the inside pictures, she's got a sort of metallic scarf around her neck.
Very 2000s.
I feel like that scarf looks really familiar, but I think I'm just conflating it with other millions of scarves that she had.
Yeah.
But yes, of course, this, as we mentioned before, the apple necklace, which appears, I think one of these pictures is just in the credit, in the beginning, right?
The contents. Yeah.
They're both black and white, and she's got this cute hat on. You're so right about all the accessories. They are so darling. If you're not familiar, make sure you check them out on our website on the episode page, because they're so cute.
So good. And I really appreciate that Movieline. They never printed, or what I consider wasted space with we went to Getty Images and here's some pictures from her life or her career. They didn't do that. They only printed new photos taken exclusively for the magazine. And I just really love that. I never thought about it until I was doing this. And I was like, that was such a cool thing they did.
It just kind of makes it streamlined a bit.
Yeah. And it's just you're not going, there's that picture from ET I've seen a million times.
I mean, sometimes I appreciate those little things that are printed because it'll be something that's never printed before.
Rarely.
I know, but if it's like usual, where it's a picture from ET that we've seen a million times, a picture of her as Cinderella we've seen a million times, yeah, that's a good point. But I do love that. So Movieline, was a really great magazine, hence why we're going through this.
I loved it. I had a subscription at one point, I'm pretty sure. If not, I used to buy every single issue. So hopefully I did have a subscription and save some money. But yeah, so let's just really quickly, because we mentioned it, but we didn't go deep into it. So the striped shirt Drew wore, and I think there were 2 versions. I think there's a yellow and black, and I think there's a green and black, but she wore them for years. She wore them in her SNL photo shoot. That was the same month this magazine came out. And then as late as 2008, she was even photographed wearing it. So that's so fun to know that it was made for her and that she loved it so much.
So cool. And I would love to find whatever picture of Marlon Brando they're channeling here, because I'm almost thinking maybe the hat is part of it.
I think it's more the hat. Yeah, I'm so picturing it too. And then the apple necklace, like we mentioned, she wears it in Charlie's Angels Full Throttle. And she also wears it when promoting the movie and probably other times too. But those are the top of head ones I'm thinking of.
So cool. So putting together more pieces.
Yeah.
I love it.
We love a wardrobe recycle over here.
Yes. And I don't know if you said it, but we have a whole page on the site full of recycled wardrobe.
That's true.
I'm sure we could do more of it.
We have a whole bunch in a folder that we're supposed to do that we've never gotten around to.
Oh, God. But there's some really neat ones. We have some really fun ones up there already. All right. So I'm ready to dive into the article. Are you?
I am. And I didn't write it here, but I think it's funny that it's the very often used title, Drew Confessions. So many articles are called that.
It's Drew Confessions and True Drew. I feel like. Okay, so it's Michael Fleming?
Yep.
All right. So like we said, this format is like the last issue of Movieline, where it's Q&A format, though, of course, there's an intro like there usually is. So the article begins with this paragraph. She's been in the news for making Charlie's Angels a blockbuster, escaping a house fire, and marrying Tom Green. But there's more to Drew Barrymore than headlines. Here she tells us what she really does behind closed doors, from the phobia she developed after the destruction of her home, to the anxiety she's experienced as a producer, to the emotional roller coaster she's endured while making her biggest challenge to date riding in cars with boys. So it sets the scene.
Yeah. And that's a heavy paragraph right there. It's not very like fun.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like anxiety, emotional roller coaster,
phobia,
house burning, phobia. Yeah. It's a lot. So that kind of, but then the next paragraph is describing like her happiness. There's some line that says like, so one of the happiest in Hollywood, or it says something sweet. And it talks about her kindness to like fans and people she works with, her love of flowers, which extends to like the name of her production company, her generosity. So there's all this like, she's going through a lot, and yet this is Drew Barrymore. The person we know is still her. It's cool. It's a good intro.
It is a good. There's mentions of her recent box office successes. So we are right after this like absolutely powerhouse, boom, 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 The Wedding Singer, Ever After, Never Been Kissed, Charlie's Angels, like wild.
We were there for all of it.
It's crazy. And then her films that were in production at the time were Duplex, Charlie's Angels 2, and Barbarella, rest in peace, that never came to be.
Yep. And it was talked about for years.
For years, yeah. But at this moment, she was promoting Riding in Cars with Boys, as it mentioned. And Michael says that her past year was incredibly busy filming Riding in Cars with Boys for nearly 8 months. And I was like, damn, is that right? And I went and looked at like our records, and that does sound accurate, which is crazy.
That is a long time. But then it's the timeline is mentioned again later in an interesting way. So we'll get into that timeline thing again.
She also spent the past year promoting Charlie's Angels worldwide, executive producing Donnie Darko. Whoop, whoop.
Love it.
Losing Her House in a Fire, which was in February 2001, and Marrying Tom Green, which was in July 2001.
So a whirlwind year of a lot of shit.
And then I thought this was a really weird side note. He very briefly just says they had a symbolic wedding in the spring in the South Pacific. And I don't remember that being a thing. Do you?
No, I don't at all.
I'm like, is that something they joked about once and this guy took a little seriously? Because we know he liked to like take the rumors and really run with them.
Or maybe she said that to him.
Yeah, maybe.
Who knows?
Who knows?
And it is worth noting that Tom Green filed for divorce like less than 3 months after this magazine came out. So
yeah, I think you just kind of have to like have that in your mind when you're reading this, right? I was like, wait, I got to do the math. And I like went and looked it up. Yeah, it's just a very quick whirlwind relationship.
Yes. And before we get into the Q&A portion, there's sort of this description of like where they met to do the interview. So Drew and Michael meet once again at the Sunset Marquis Hotel like they did in the previous one. And he notes Drew's hair is short, spiky mix of dark roots and a few shades of blonde. And she's wearing what she calls her Joyce DeWitt pants, faded, comfortable blue jeans that look like something DeWitt wore on Three's Company because she hasn't had time to buy new clothes after the fire incinerated her wardrobe.
Crazy.
I couldn't really picture the hair, first of all. So I love that you put a couple pictures in here. Like, I'm like, spiky,
had to. I know. And I'm like, if this is after they got married, like the timeline of this feels weird to me. And so I'm thinking it's like August, because the magazine would have come out in September. So yeah, I don't know. It's weird.
And let's get into the Q&A.
Okay, so Michael starts right off the bat asking if she's overwhelmed by all the things that have happened to her lately.
Good question.
Yeah, she kind of has a like snarky response. She says, quote, "God forbid I ever be mundane. Knowing we'd be having this interview, I set my house on fire." Which again, I'm like, this was months later. So it's interesting that that's the first thing she jumps to. I don't know. Like,
I mean, it's funny.
Yeah, it is funny, but
it feels like Tom kind of
the
humor.
House burned down,
right? I set the house on fire knowing we'd have this interview. And then he asks what happened with the fire, and Drew says, which we were like just inquiring about.
Yeah, I'm only laughing because Anna and I were just randomly talking about that and like couldn't find anything factual. And then I go to pull this article and I was like, oh, there's the answer right there.
Like within days, it was so funny. So Drew was told it was an electrical thing, and with the house being old, wood, and an open floor plan, everything was gone in minutes. And she just describes it as going like a match, which is like wild.
Yeah.
And in Tom Green's book, which you've read, he mentions that his parents were also there staying the night at the guest house. I totally forgot that fact.
Yeah, same. I went and pulled like the parts from his book that I have saved, and because like to see what he said about the fire. And I was like, what? I don't remember knowing that at all. That's so fascinating.
But I guess we'll tell our audience, like the guest house was separate enough from the house that it survived the fire.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, who knows how long it took them to realize the house was burning. Like, wild.
Crazy. Okay, so then he asks, how does she deal with losing possessions? And this one really was interesting to me because of what we just did for her at her show.
Yep.
So the quote is, I came to believe it was time to start over. I needed to learn to let go of things because I was coming to a very collecting, hoarding place in my life, holding really strong to my past. Things that made me know I had an identity I didn't have growing up, something I thought would be good for my future children. That it was all taken away as something I need to examine. I believe it happens for spiritual reasons. The alternative, sitting around and being bummed out, that would be so pointless. And I just thought that was crazy because the day that we were there, and I'm sure because we had brought all that stuff, she was interviewed backstage at her show saying like, oh, do you have any like things like ET socks or anything from your life? And she's saying like, no, I don't have anything. And I kind of forgot maybe she did at one point and just lost it all. Sucks.
Yeah. I hadn't, it's interesting that I like looking back at this, I haven't really considered how much losing her house. Like it's been brought up sporadically over the years, but she really doesn't like seem to
dwell on it.
Yeah, or like I don't know, like I don't know. Maybe it's just her way of her resilience is her way of like the only time we've heard about it is when there's like a dress that is like asked about and she's like, "Oh, I lost that in a fire."
Oh, yeah, the Oscars 2000 dress.
Yeah. But it is wild to imagine like maybe she did have some stuff. But there is a neat thing in this next part, and I'm wondering like about these photo books they mentioned. So Michael says that Drew had been starting to collect Barrymore family items, which is so cool to know, and asks was she able to save anything. And she says she saved some family silver, which does seem so random to me too.
Yeah.
And some photo books that survived because Tom like shut a door in the room they were in. And you pulled a quote from Tom's book about this, which I'll go ahead and read. So Tom said, in the bedroom, Drew had this series of scrapbooks that she had collected that were filled with the history of her family. John Barrymore had apparently collected all of his press photos and other material in these large leather-bound books, and they had been passed down to Drew for safekeeping. By closing the bedroom door, I knew there was a chance those books would survive, and they did. Like, I'm so curious about these.
Like so many things. First of all, I was like so happy to see him validate the exact same thing she said. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Like this is legit. I don't know why. Sometimes I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. But like, where did they come from? How did they get to her?
Right.
It's so cool to imagine. Does she still have them? I'm sure she does. But
Right.
this really, all of this stuff really kind of put in perspective, like, oh, no wonder she's so incredibly touched every time we give her like a cool rare photo of her family. Like she doesn't have much and maybe had more and lost it.
True, maybe there were pictures of her parents and the stuff she lost, and us having given her the one that she has. I mean, she has this like, I guess they talk about it in this too, like her connection to her family that she didn't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, so this is so random.
Okay. So I thought this was a good place to mention this.
It is.
There is an article. Okay. So Drew is on the cover of Venice magazine in February 1992. It's like a local Southern California magazine. And there's a really great feature on her. But as well as that, a couple pages later, there's a really weird article written by her brother, John, her half brother.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about him and his dad, their dad, Drew's dad. Not only is it about moving their grandfather's body. Okay, that's a whole separate thing, and we're going to save for another time. That's like the main point of the story.
Yeah.
We'll talk about it later. Like I'm trying, what is the article called? Hold on.
It does have a funny name.
Yeah, it has a funny name.
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Okay, there you go. So we'll get into that later. And this isn't even, that's like a whole separate thing from how like Earl Flynn and W.C. Fields supposedly had his body. It's like John Barrymore's body got around.
It briefly mentions that too.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm getting off track. But the reason I pulled part of this is because there's a whole part in here where Brother John talks about him and Dad John selling off Barrymore pieces for money. Mm-hmm. And this is like one of those things where I always get so stuck on people being like, oh, she comes from the Barrymores. She had generational wealth. Well, no, she freaking didn't. Here's some great proof. So I'm just going to read this. This is John, Brother John. I always have to say which John. Brother John's words. So he says when John, the grandfather, died in 1942, he was destitute. Not only broke, but several $100,000 in debt. Everything he owned was sold by the executors of his estate to pay off these debts. Everything, that is, except what my grandmother, Dolores Costello, managed to acquire from him before, during, and after their marriage. My grandfather was quite the collector. So he says, upon my grandmother's death in March 1979, my father, John Barrymore Jr., and I began to enjoy a greatly improved standard of living, supported by selling off the Barrymore-bilia we had pirated from her estate. And he lists all kinds of things like silver, interesting, antique furniture, rare old books. And then he says, after several years of abject poverty, we were now comfortably ensconced in adjacent one-bedroom apartments. So shitty.
Yeah, pretty shitty to know that there was stuff. But maybe the silver came from this moment. Like maybe, I don't know.
Who knows? But yeah, like there were things. And when Dolores died, John and John were like, cool, let's go make some money. It goes pretty deep into like, they had a whole, like they had all these people they would go to. This guy would buy their books.
That's right.
It's detailed and it's wild.
Yep. And they would they said the guy with the books would often buy them for more than they were worth, which I thought that was so interesting. But the word Barrymore-bilia just cracked me up.
I know. I'm like, why don't we ever use that?
We have the Barrymore-bilia. I don't know if like the silver and the antique furniture and stuff that they owned is Barrymore. I guess it is. I don't know. Stuff they use.
Give the new generation of Barrymore-bilia.
A much newer generation. Also, I'm just going to note, I don't think I realized that Dolores Costello was alive until 1979. Yeah,
I know. So again, that like got me for a second. Did Drew ever meet her? Like, that's crazy if she didn't.
Yeah.
Man, there's so many questions forever.
There are so many questions forever
that we will always have about this family.
Totally. That aside was interesting because it was sort of like thinking about like, wait, there was like stuff like possessions. Like
it just felt so appropriate to sort of fill that in here.
Yes. So then we're back to the article. What possessions have been the hardest to replace? And Drew said she is the most bummed about losing clothing that she had for years. Speaking of wardrobe recycle. And because she hates to shop and has a hard time finding clothes that she feels good in. There's this whole little aside about like Nancy buying her pants that like ended up making her feel like squatty or something.
Yeah.
And she says, not only did my house burn down, but I was left feeling ugly. I understand that because I have clothes I really love and wear.
Like the things that make you feel good.
Right. Or just like things that are comfy or something, like something I go to that I don't know. So
maybe that's why she only wears Free City sweatpants now.
Maybe.
So Michael says like, oh, it seemed like you were taking the fire so lightly because you were joking with the press, but it must have been upsetting. I'm like, yeah, duh.
Hello.
So Drew tells the story. This is the phobia part. She tells a story of how the night after the fire, they were in a hotel room and she couldn't sleep with the lights off. And she says, quote, our hotel room was backed against a wall. There was no way to get out. I never thought of that before when I'd gone into any room. And then the following night, she flips out again when the lights go off. And Tom just like got real with her. And he's like, you got to nip this in the bud right now. And Drew said, you're right. I don't have to make this a thing. It's my psychological choice not to be damaged by this right now. And then she says, I was determined to not become crippled by this experience.
Oh.
And I love that. And it worked. And she said she hadn't been afraid since. So, Tom is an interesting part of Drew's life, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of like meh things about it, but there were things like this that I feel like made them make sense as a good match.
Yeah, I mean, they went through some shit. Like he had cancer, their house burned down.
They went through way too much shit publicly. Yeah.
Yeah. And you pulled another little bit from Tom's book about this moment. And again, it's cool. It's not that we want to hear about this like phobia that developed, but it's neat to have like a couple sides of it.
Yeah.
So Drew was subject to panic attacks under much less stressful circumstances, like hearing a weird sound in the middle of the night. And I don't mean, oh, I'm nervous panic attacks. I mean full-on crying and hysterics, like total insanity. So when the house burned down, it wasn't just, okay, let's go check into a hotel. That this is really sad. This is crazy. And we're crying. This was a volatile situation in which I was panicked myself, wondering if either or both of us was going to fall apart.
Ugh. Definitely like that gives you a little bit more of the like stress and tension they were under. But I do really like that he was able to be like, dude, this is going to be a thing if you don't stop it now. Like, do you want to stop it now?
But would anyone imagine like Tom Green being the guy who could like, I don't know. It's cool to think like, oh, maybe it made, like you said, made sense why they were a pair.
Yeah.
Like this, like they, with the yin and yang of it.
Well, like weirdly, I think she was kind of the more wacky one and he was the more grounded one, even though you wouldn't necessarily think that by looking at him.
Totally. But I mean, she'd had a wild life that he couldn't even relate to. This is a whole thing.
We'll talk about that a little bit further on.
Right.
But Michael says it must be nice to have someone like that to help work things out. And she says, quote, he's smart. Sometimes I seem like an emotional basket case compared to Tom, but he can get emotional and weird too. He's got his neurotic side. I've got mine. Don't we all?
Yes, we do. So then Michael asks, how's Flossie after saving them from the fire? Because if you don't know, Flossie alerted them to the fire. So if you didn't know that was a huge part of the story.
And that was her dog.
Yes. Oh, yes. If you don't know that, we always assume people know things. So Drew's response was that Flossie is fat from all the treats she's been getting, but seems depressed. And she said she doesn't have a Tom telling her to get rational about it. Oh,
so cute.
And then this was kind of an interesting thing about the wedding. So he asked her if it was worth going to great lengths not to have the meteor crash their wedding, which you noted.
Yeah, I'm like, but they did. Like there were tons of paparazzi pictures. So I don't really know what that means.
But I guess they're all far away. So maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. It still feels like they crashed the wedding.
Yeah.
Her response was, she says, a wedding day should be sacred, not some press joke. And she said, I feel like I'm on this metaphorical gynecological table most of the time. She totally says that. Yep, still. She said, it's all out there and I'm totally cool with that. My wedding was the one thing I felt animalistically protective of.
And I thought that was just crazy, from the previous year when they did the whole SNL joke wedding. Like when she's like, it should be sacred and not some press joke. I'm like, huh.
You mean like the press joke you did?
You mean the way you guys joked about being married for like a year? Interesting. So like something's changing in her, I think, at this point.
Agreed.
And then this is another very interesting sort of change. Michael says, what about selling her pictures to a publication like some people do to have some control over it? And he mentioned Michael Douglas, for example. And she said, quote, that's one way of going about it, but it wouldn't be my way. If he felt it was about protection, I respect that, but I cannot sell out what I consider to be sacred. And then I just was like, I'm just not calling her a hypocrite. I'm just noting when she gets married again to Will 11 years later, she does do exactly that. She does sell the photos to people and all their affiliates to have that control, which I understand, way better that you get to pick the pictures and keep the paparazzi away.
Right. And then she did it when she had a baby too. Yeah. It's so I wonder if it was the conversation with Tom at the time,
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know.
that could be a factor. And I could see Will being like, of course, put our pictures all over the magazine. So.
Yeah, because didn't they also like have their pictures featured of his next wedding and something too?
Yep.
All right. There was a silly thing, of course, Tom being silly again. He went on Jay Leno and was like saying Drew was pregnant. This is in April of 2001. So Michael's asking about this, and Drew said she was backstage cracking up, that she loved it, and said, as if I would ever tell my husband that I'm pregnant, just as he's going on the talk show. I'm thinking, where does he get this stuff? One of the things we bonded over is details, and I love the detail about whispering it in his ear as he was coming out, but I'd never do that. I'd probably spell it out in flower petals in a private room. Oh, which is so cute.
Yeah, it is cute. And I wanted to like find out when that happened. That's how I figured out it was in April. And I found like a little thing in Entertainment Weekly that had mentioned it. And they even had like a follow-up statement from Tom where he said, people always think I'm kidding about stuff. Jay and I were joking around. I thought the audience was in on it. We're not pregnant now, but do hope to be blessed with children in the future.
It's so funny they had to like make a statement.
Yeah.
I mean, he just thought people got that it was a joke.
They were constantly confusing people with what was going on. So it was just that was the deal back then. It was a weird time to be following her.
Okay, that's so funny. So then Michael asks if Drew feels pressure to make her relationship with Tom look happy all the time. And Drew says that she like can't pretend that something's a certain way to look better, and that she's imperfect and always figuring things out in front of everybody. Like her life is very public. So she feels like I couldn't if I wanted to.
Yeah. And then he asks, what's the last prank that Tom pulled on her? So she says they were looking for new houses, and he started saying that one of them had a bomb shelter under it and that Brendan Fraser lived in it, which is like from the movie Blast from the Past. And Drew said, sometimes I'll take him seriously and get upset saying, what the fuck are you saying? Like, there's a little bit of that. I'm getting annoyed of this stuff.
Right. A little bit of impatience.
Yeah. And she also mentions that he's working on a book called 20 Ways I Scare My Fiance, and that she thinks he should keep that title even though they're married now.
Oh my God. I don't think that book ever came out.
Actually, that's what I was looking for when I went and pulled his book to see if there was any mention of that. And then I was like, oh, wait, he talks about all this other stuff. So, yeah. Oh,
funny. That's funny. Okay, then we get into some other stuff that made Drew emotional, and it makes sense why. Michael asks if it's true that Tom urged Drew to reconnect with her mom. And Drew said yes, that they had spent Christmas of 2000 with his family in Ottawa and invited Jade. I'd forgotten those details.
This is crazy. Yeah.
She said that their parents all got along really well because they had like great senses of humor, which that's cool. And then Drew said 2020 had done a segment on Tom, his cancer special, and his comedy. And after dinner, we watched it in the family room, and everybody felt so proud. Then we went upstairs and sang karaoke and played games. It was a perfect evening.
That's really amazing to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have a photo of Drew, Tom, and Jade. I think I always assumed this was New York, but it's like 3 days after Christmas. So maybe it's in Canada.
Yeah, it might be like in Ottawa somewhere. Yeah. But yeah, it looks like New York because there's a
cab like,
in the back.
That's my evidence. So funny.
But they could have easily been back in New York too. I don't know.
No, because they spent New Year's Eve in Ottawa at the place called Barrymore. So I'm sure it is Canada.
There we go.
That's funny. Okay. And then he asks, how often does she see her mom now? And so she's like, oh, every few months, they don't need to be best friends. They don't need to be in each other's business or get financially involved, even though I think we've heard since then that she does take care of her mom financially.
Yeah.
And then she says, quote, for a long time, we weren't allowed to be in each other's lives. And the guilt and the pain that comes from that, when you have a birthday and the person that gave birth to you is not allowed to speak to you, it's pretty tough. And I definitely know she said that in recent years too. Almost that exact same thing.
Yeah, but like you made a note here, like weren't allowed to be in each other's lives.
Yeah.
Like what? That the phrasing of that makes it sound like she's not allowed to speak to you. And all I could think of, because we're talking about it we're talking about Little Girl Lost, is that she's talking about when she was in recovery and they were like keeping her away from her mom. But it feels like more than
like,
that.
did she take that with her in life? Like, it's best if we don't speak. Like, it's better for her mentally, and
maybe.
Yeah, it is very interesting phrasing.
Like, I think she probably set that rule for herself.
Yeah,
she
I think
set
so
that
too.
Boundary, and then anyway. But I think that was kind of a cool thing that Tom did, was to have them spend some time together.
Oh, totally. There's a good quote coming up that he says. Again, I'm like, he's kind of the one that's more grounded.
Yeah. So then it says, did playing a young single mom in Riding Cars with Boys make Drew sympathize more with Jade? And Drew said she did talk to Jade about her experience as a mother and wove that into her character. And she also told Jade that in a way she was playing her and hoped it would be cathartic for them both.
It's pretty cool.
It's also because I think in this question, it's like pointing out that Beverly, the character in Riding Cars with Boys, like kind of resents her child.
Yeah. Yes.
And
so clearly there's some of that.
Right.
Well, I mean, Jade wanted her own career. She wanted to be an actress. And then Drew kind of interrupted that for her, right? Like, she's talked about that before. I remember Jade directly speaking about that in an interview. So yeah, it's really interesting to imagine. And then he asked, did Jade feel guilty for taking Drew to clubs as a kid and things like that? And then Drew kind of does what she always does, where she sort of turns it around on herself, like she's to blame. She says, no, I put my mom through some shit too. I wasn't easy. Imagine what it must be like for your child to be 11 telling you that you can't tell me what to do. I'm off to a party. That must be no easy job for a parent. And I rue the day if my child did that to me, which I think I always come back to this. Like, I love that she takes responsibility for her part in things, but also like, she's 11. And why is she in a place where this is what's happening? How did we get here?
Yeah. How did the 11-year-old get in control is what the question is. It's sort of interesting. So Michael points out that making Riding Cars with Boys was clearly very emotional. And Drew said it was disturbing every day being in touch with the pain.
Oof. Disturbing every day. That really stuck with me.
Yeah. I like that you noted another thing from a different magazine. So she said during filming in September 2000, she told Rolling Stone that she'd been filming emotional scenes all week. It was in a crazy, crazy headspace. And we talked about this Rolling Stone issue in episode 34, if you want to hear more.
Yeah, I know I'm like kind of in the minority in the way I feel about Riding Cars with Boys. I'm very like let down by it, I guess. And a lot of that is because of articles like this in Rolling Stone, where I know she worked so hard on it. And I feel like a lot of that movie is very like goofy.
I feel like Penny Marshall probably squashed some of the work she did somehow.
Yes, I agree. The tone is weird in that film, and we'll talk about it when we cover it. I know a lot of people really love it, and I'm not saying it doesn't have its good points.
It's a good performance. It's just
it was supposed to be this really important, like, career altering performance, and instead there's like cheesy music and goofy scenes that like make it not be serious enough. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back and reading this, I'm like, this is why I felt that way, because I was so looking forward to this huge dramatic performance from her, and we didn't get it. She tried, but like the finished product didn't see that through.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Okay.
Like
I'm still upset about it, I guess.
I mean, we'll have to go through that movie at some point.
Definitely. So then Michael asked if she ever wanted to give up on this emotional exploration with her mom. And this is what I was mentioning earlier about Tom, like, again, coming through with some wisdom. Because she said at first she'd be like, oh, Tom, like, why are you pushing me into this? Why is this so important to you? And he said, quote, because I don't think the difficulty of seeing or speaking to your mom every few months could ever compare to the amount of guilt and pain that I see in you on a daily basis.
Oh,
like, so good, right? And he like pointed out to her that she's always viewed her mom through the eyes of a child, And now she's an adult. So maybe they could have a different relationship. Like, he did some good things for her.
It also is because she still has guilt and pain and all these things on a daily basis. It's not, I mean, I guess his point is basically like, you're already in pain. Like, it's worth doing the like work to see. I don't know.
Yeah.
There is a lot of wisdom in that, but also like hard. It's a hard thing to hear.
I know.
So then he asks if the pain has subsided, and Drew said that a massive weight is off her shoulders, and the film seemed to really help with that. She said, I actually started seeing things from my mom's place for a moment, not coming at it from the vantage point of a victimized child. Yeah, maybe she wasn't the best parent when I was 10 to 14, but I think it's because she got confused. That's interesting.
Yeah.
And then Drew, of course, she blames Hollywood for their relationship getting so screwed up.
Which definitely was a huge factor.
It's huge factor. I mean, she was the breadwinner.
Yeah. I mean, that's already the dynamic is way messed up.
Right.
And then he's like, so with Hollywood, like causing relationships to get messed up, why risk the odds and get married to Tom? And she says she thinks their relationship is worth fighting for. They recently had some sort of conflict. And then they looked at photos from that Christmas that we just mentioned and said, that's what's important. Remember that family is reality. And Drew mentions they're really yin yang with their upbringings because he's got this like groundedness from growing up just like in Canada, stability. And then she has her like whole understanding of how Hollywood works. So that's how they like
their yin yang works.
Yeah, exactly.
But very different. They're so different.
And that's like eventually, according to Tom and the way he tells things in his books, that's sort of like that difference like was too much, you know, like they were in different realities.
They couldn't relate to each other.
Yeah.
It makes sense. So, Michael asks, why did Drew have to fight to win the role of Beverly in Riding Cars with Boys? And she said nothing comes easily to her in life. And then she said the producer, James Brooks, which is the father of a longtime friend of Drew's, Amy Brooks, thought that Drew was the one for the role and got her in before anyone else to audition for Penny. And Drew said, I had the fortunate blessing of being the first in line to audition, but it's hard watching everyone else go in after you. I heard rumors that other people were going to get it. That lasted 3 months, but the struggle made it all the more rewarding.
Yeah, so I was trying to find like anything that would mention other people being up for the part. I couldn't find anything like that. I did find an article all the way back from May 1999 in Variety that was naming Drew as like possibly attached to the role, and Penny was only in negotiations to direct at that point. So,
that's
yeah, Drew was attached to it for a very long time.
That's interesting that she was before Penny was.
I know. It's like, well, yeah, then it should be her part.
Yeah, that's wild.
And then Michael asks, was doing this emotional movie after years of lighter fare a difficult departure? So her answer here is weird. She doesn't really answer that at all.
Yep.
Instead, she talks about how Penny worked her bones into the ground. That's a direct quote.
Yep.
That she filmed for over 8 months when it could have been 2.
Jeez.
Kind of a little bit of a like
burn.
And that Penny got her performance to a place of honesty. But then she ends it by saying it wasn't the proper dynamic for them to be best friends. So it was a very weird answer.
It's very weird. And I think it's her way of like, she's not really dancing around it, but basically saying like, Penny was really, really hard on me and it wasn't pleasant.
Yeah. And then Penny, like, spoiler alert, Penny comes around in her book and like blames the movie's failure on Drew, which
really,
yeah, like we'll have to pull the exact quote, but she blames it on Drew's performance. Yeah. I'm like, really not on the tone, the weird ass tone of that movie. That
whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly they didn't have the same vision.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, anyway, because I think Riding Cars with Boys, the book, is like, I feel like it has a more serious tone.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, I think it's about the struggle of Beverly being a mother, a young mother. And
a young mother with a drug addicted dad of the kid. Like, it's dark stuff.
It is dark stuff. Yeah. But then like,
yeah. Here I am falling down the stairs, making a goofy face. Like, it's just
okay.
weird.
Yeah. Then she's asked if she'd ever want to direct, and Drew said that she would like to and has sat around talking about it for 10 years. And she said she's amazed that Tom just up and did Freddie Got Fingered. But she also said that she's enjoyed finding the right directors for Flower Films projects and doesn't want to get in the way of that yet. So that's kind of neat because we know that she was like she had been working on Donnie Darko, and we know like how she has championed the directors for some of her films.
Mick G, another great example.
Yeah,
totally.
So fun.
And then he asks if people are taking her and Nancy seriously after their surprise blockbuster hit of Charlie's Angels, because people thought it was going to be a big disaster, and it wasn't. And I like what she says here. She says, quote, "Yes, but in no way would that validation have matched the level of failure had we not succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
It was a sigh of relief when it worked, but had it not, they would have said, I knew it, they suck." So it's like, you know, it's that thing of like, I'm not coming up with a good example, but just like, oh, okay, we didn't fail, but we're not going to get like a huge like pat on the back. But if we had failed, everybody would be talking about it.
Right. Drew is asked, was she confident when Charlie's Angels came out, or a basket case when it opened? And she said she wasn't nearly as sick as when Never Been Kissed opened. And then she's kind of like asked to describe what she means by being nearly as sick.
Should you read this whole thing?
I don't know.
Also, I'm like, this is the part I thought you could probably really relate to.
I mean,
am I right? The way her mind works.
Yeah, to some extent. I'll start reading some of it and then I'll see how far I get.
Okay. So
she's explaining what she means. She says, I woke up Friday morning. Normally I'm in meetings all day, but I cleared the day, which is the stupidest thing I could have done. I had only myself to deal with. I woke up that morning panting. Damn, there was an early show in New York. Wonder how it went. That's exciting that it's in Times Square. Why can't I just appreciate that? Why am I thinking like such a Hollywood asshole? I hate myself. My God, what if it doesn't work? The studio is going to think it invested money in a bunch of losers. I'll call Nancy. No, she'll think I'm nuts. No, she knows I'm nuts, so I'll call. She said, no, I'll call my friend Amy. Oh, you can't do anything now? Oh, maybe we can get together for dinner. You know what? I shouldn't be around anyone because I have such bad energy. In fact, I'm going to hang up the phone. Was I being weird? I'll just drive out to the ocean. That's what I need, to see the deep blue sea, because I'm so small. The ocean will remind me how stupid I am. So I go to the ocean and pull over to the parking lot, but I go to buy some CDs because I think that music will help. But I'm crying now. I can't go in the store because they'll think I'm nuts. I think, okay, maybe I should call Amy again. Hello? No, I'm in the parking lot crying. I don't know what to do. It's only Friday afternoon, and this is the longest day of my life. No, I'm not checking the weekend grosses. I want to find out after it's done. In fact, I want to find out in the trades on Monday, the way everybody does. I'm a loser. Why am I talking about trades? It goes on. I've got to go. Bye. Why am I being so self-indulgent? Nothing will be affected by this weekend, but Hollywood will. Everybody involved in this movie will care. My God, I've let all these people down. My God, it's been 10 minutes since I looked at the ocean. I brought myself out to sea and I haven't even looked at it. I'm looking down at the sand, thinking about myself. Ooh. Yeah. I mean, it's a lot. I can relate because it's the thing of just being in your head so much.
And being so hard on yourself. Like, oh, call my friend. No, I shouldn't even call my friend. She's going to think I'm crazy. She knows I'm crazy. No, like, don't do this.
It's a fight with herself.
And also the whole thing, like, okay, I have the answer. I'll go look at the ocean. Oh my God, I forgot to even look at the ocean. I'm such a loser. Like, yeah. I was like, oh, I think Anne could relate to this.
That's what my head sounds like.
I don't like it. Michael asks, like, when did that stop? I can just imagine he's sitting there recording this, like, whoa. She said it lasted the whole weekend until she got to the office on Monday. And then she said, quote, I had micromanaged that film from my heart and realized that fixating on the end result would make a great experience impure. Better that I lose my mind at the beach and not find out what the numbers are as they're coming in, rather than being a producer on her cell phone. Like, she really hates being that, like, the trades and the cell phone and Hollywood asshole.
She doesn't want to be worried about it. She wants to be worried about how much fun they had doing it, but she has to because she's a producer. Like, So then he asks how she felt when she found out it opened strong. And she said she was somewhat relieved. So I understand that too, is like things turn out okay and you still don't feel like the relief of it.
Yeah.
And then the author asked, does she worry about her lucky streak ending? And this is such a constant thing for her. She said, I do feel that at any moment it will all be gone, that at any moment I'll be thrown back into that institution, that the people I love will run away from me.
It makes me think that moment with the, quote, private agents who picked her up from her apartment and put her in handcuffs, like that moment traumatized her.
Absolutely.
She still thinks the bad guys are going to come get her and lock her up.
Right.
Ugh. Okay. So then he mentions that she's working on a documentary about the Barrymore family. She was supposed to narrate and produce it. Again, this is a project that just never came to be. She's shown working on it in MTV's Diary, the part where they like go into the Flower Films war room, like their little meeting room, and she's telling everybody some story about her grandfather and how like somebody, maybe like a Native American, had told him if he wanted to have a son, he had to like go kill a black bear and do something with his heart. I don't remember the exact wording. I really just remember the way she says black bear.
That does sound vaguely familiar now that you've like recalled that.
I wish that had happened. Maybe one day she will do this. But anyways, he asks who among her family does she feel the closest to? And of course, she says hands down, it's her grandfather, John. She loves hearing stories from people that knew him. She also enjoys with her family being able to watch their movies and reading the books that they actually wrote themselves. And she says, quote, a lot of people get to spend their lives with their families. Since I didn't, I at least feel lucky that my family left me all this documentation of their lives, which is really cool. Like, you know, if she hadn't come from this very, very famous family,
right? She would have
nothing. Yeah.
But she has all these stories. And it is cool to think like a couple of them wrote books. So she's got their own words. It's
or
cool.
She can turn on, what does she call it? Like the portal, like the TV in her kitchen, the portal to her family.
Oh my God. I would love her to do a documentary. I wonder what happened with that.
Well, if you remember, maybe like a year or two ago, there's a picture of her and Chris Miller in Drew magazine, and she had the Barrymore family book. So maybe
it's so funny when you were talking about Diary, I was thinking, was that when the book was in front of her? But no,
I know. Isn't that funny? I was too.
So maybe there's something.
I hope so.
Oh, that would be so cool. So then Michael asked, does she feel like she's continuing the Barrymore legacy? I like how she describes this. She says, I never feel like I'm pulling a sword out of the stone. I feel like I'm pulling it out of thin air. And sometimes I'm pulling it out of my ass. The idea of being able to make your family proud, whether they're here or floating in the universe, that must be the height of success for everybody.
Oh, floating in the universe.
But I also like the idea, like pulling it out of thin air, like the legacy is something that she's had to like, you know, it's not like it was leading to her so clearly as a path.
Right. It's like this vague thing from the past that
right.
she didn't really have a tangible connection to.
Right.
Okay. And then we're wrapping up, but I really like this because we can think of Drew now. He says, will she be able to fit having kids into her life? And Drew's answer is, of course, yes. And she says, quote, I even fear that if I have kids, I'm going to be this big, fat, emotional wreck. I'm going to be so stuck to my child. I'm not going to be able to work. And yeah, she knows herself because that's pretty much what happened. Like she still won't do movies because she doesn't want to leave her kids for that long, which valid. But back in this time, she said that she's worried that at age 26, with a bunch of long-term projects in the works, she's going to hit her 30s and realize that all she did was focus on her career. And that is what happens because she doesn't have Olive until she's 37, I think. Yeah.
I don't know the exact year, but you're probably right. I like this little last thing. Anything that she wants to whisper in his ear before they finish. And then she leans over in a breathy whisper. Yes, I'm pregnant. And then louder, I'm kidding.
I like that because it's funny. And also because of the like early Movieline articles with the other author who like, he'd always have her say something into the tape recorder to end the article with. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. So we've reached the end of Movieline 2001. It was a fun one. And I shouldn't say fun. It was a deep one.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one.
Surprisingly deep.
Yeah, surprisingly deep. You get a lot of insight into how her brain works in not the most happy ways. And yeah, this whole Tom Green relationship, we could definitely analyze it a lot, but this is a great way to do that. This weird moment in time where they're like right in the middle of like, what's going to happen here?
Right. And there's like clearly the differences are becoming so glaring.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So yes, 5 of 6 movie lines we've tackled. So here we are.
I don't remember anything about the last one, so that'll be fun to go visit when we get there.
I don't really either.
Yeah. So thanks you guys for listening. As always, we would appreciate if you could rate, review, subscribe. We haven't gotten a new rating on Apple Podcasts in a while, and we love to read those reviews on the air. You can also send us kind words anywhere, and we do like put our favorites on the website at howdoyoudrew.com. There's a little page for reviews, and some of our favorite kind words are on there. So if you've ever said something nice to us, you might see your words there. And then you can follow us on Instagram at howdoyoudrewpod and our other account at drewseum.
And I've mentioned a couple of times we've got a website, so don't forget to visit our website at howdoyoudrew.com, hosted on the drewseum.com. See today's episode page. Every episode page is great. Sign up for our Patreon.
Patreon.com/howdoyoudrew.
Yeah, we should mention real quick that we're putting full scans of the entire magazine features that we're talking about here over on the Patreon. So if you wanted to read this entire article, it's going to be over there for you.
Yes, it is. And don't forget to send listener mail to howdoyoudrewpod@gmail.com or any of the platforms that we've mentioned. Yeah, I guess we'll see you all next Drew's Day.
We better come back, guys.
Yeah, please come back. All right,
thank you. Bye.
This episode of the How Do You Drew podcast was researched and produced by Ashley and Ann from thedrewseum.com with help from our sponsor, Positive Medium.
Special thanks to Matt Costa for our lovely theme song, Roxy Prima for our adorable logo, and last but not least, Drew Barrymore and all the Drewbies who love her. We do this for you.
Thank you.